I tried the carnivore diet. This is what happened. Sean here from Fit Fusion Brotherhood. The carnivore diet craze is real. I get asked about it all the time, and I always think it's more helpful when a coach can go through something rather than just reading about it. So I wanted to go through the carnivore diet to see how it feels. So I'm going to talk about the pros, the cons, what I experienced, and whether or not I would recommend it in the future for other clients. So the staples in my diet here were a lot of steak, sausage, bacon, eggs, ground beef, a lot of fatty fish as well. I felt like a bit of a psychopath at the grocery store with a cart full of saturated fat, no veggies, no fruit, nothing like that. But a few caveats before we get started, because I know there are a lot of carnivore diet purists out there, and that's not me. So first and foremost, I only did it for 2 weeks. Originally, I wanted to try for 1 week, but I decided to prolong it just to see if what I was experiencing would kind of continue. Next, one of the things I didn't like about the carnivore diet concept was the fact that there was no fiber. So I did supplement with fiber because I've heard horror stories about what happens if you don't do that. So I did supplement with fiber. Also did have a couple slip ups. So there's one night I was with a family, had a few drinks. Some of my dog's favorite foods would be peanut butter. So I had a couple tablespoons from time to time. So wasn't exactly perfect, but for the most part, maybe 95% of the 2 weeks I stayed tried, true, and tested with the carnivore diet. Okay, so first let's start with some of the pros. What are some of the things that I really got out of this that were positive? And I'll admit, going into this, I was a little skeptical. It wasn't something that I would ever do on my own just to kind of prioritize my health or my physique. But there were some positives that I did get out of this that I wasn't necessarily expecting. So first, as you can probably guess, the food was great, right? Especially if you're a guy, a lot of these are your favorite foods. You get to eat steak every day, lots of butter, lots of bacon, eggs. So the food was great, especially the first few days. It just felt like I was cheating. So it was awesome that this was part of my diet. Also, it's super simple. So I think a lot of people, when they're starting out with any sort of nutrition protocol, they want simplicity, they want clarity, and this is very simple. There's a list of what you can do and what you can't do, and I think a lot of people do like that. Now, this is where things got a little bit surprising for me, because this was the one thing that I was really concerned with. I wasn't worried about whether or not I could stick to the diet. I thought I was going to feel like crap the whole time, but it was the exact opposite. I actually felt great. Energy levels were unreal. My focus was great, and even my workouts felt like much better. Not sure if this was a placebo effect or not, but I felt generally great, which is exactly why I decided to extend it to 2 weeks instead of the 1, because I wasn't sure whether or not this was just the placebo effect or if it was a legitimate thing. Now, keep in mind, there is a lot of individual variability when it comes to any sort of diet or any sort of nutrition protocol. Some people respond really well to some things, some people don't. And for me personally, I felt great. Now, I also note that typically I do well when my sugar is low and when my starchy carbs are low. So I'm not too sure how much of this was specifically because of carnivore versus just going lower carb. But either way, energy was amazing, focus was amazing, workouts amazing. And if there's nothing else I got out of that, that alone is reason why I would say it was better than I thought. But it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. There were some cons. So let's talk about some of the negatives that I experienced over these 2 weeks. The first one, and I had read about this, so I was preparing for it, was some stomach pain. I got this around the 3 or 4 day mark, but it only lasted a couple days. I've read absolute horror stories about people just being in excruciating pain because of the way their diet's been changed. I experienced a little bit of stomach pain. It was a lot less intense than I thought, but just something to be mindful of if you're considering doing this. It's probably going to happen at some point. Some people tend to get it worse than others. I got it a little bit, but it wasn't that bad. The next one is it's really difficult to be like social. If you're going out, you don't want to be that guy that's just saying that you can only eat this and you can't eat that. That's one of the big gripes that I have with any sort of restrictive diets really, is it makes you very rigid with what you can and can't do, and it can affect your social life as well. So I didn't have too much going on, but the couple times that I did cheat was because of that reason as well. Another thing I didn't like is just the fact that they villainize fruits and veggies, right? It's kind of a strange thing. We know for a fact how many vitamins, minerals, nutrients that can be found in vegetables and fruits. So the fact that they villainize it, I didn't necessarily like that. I was actually craving a good salad or some fruit later on as well. And then finally, this is the reason why I couldn't really see myself doing this long term or forever, is it just got boring. And I'm one of those guys that I'm not a foodie. I don't have a ton of different variability with my food, but with this particular diet, I just felt like I got sick of it, right? Everything was fat and salt, which in the beginning sounds great. The first few days is amazing, but after a while you want something a little bit different, at least for me. So I began to kind of dread having the eggs and the bacon and the steak. So yeah, I think for me at least, it just got a little bit boring, and I knew it wouldn't be sustainable long term for me personally, for that reason and for the social reason. I know one of the reasons a lot of people start the carnivore diet is because they're looking to lose body fat. So do I think this would be a good plan for weight loss or for fat loss? I think the answer is, well, it depends. For me personally, I think I would actually gain weight if I did this long term, just because I don't have a lot of like starchy carbs or desserts or sweets anyway. And by having the carnivore diet, which is super high in fat, yes, it's high in protein, but it's also way higher in fat. That also comes with a lot more calories, because we know that fat has more than double the amount of calories as protein and carbs. So for me, I would probably gain weight by eating this type of stuff all the time, but I could see it working really well for people who are like, they have a sweet tooth, or they eat a ton of like rice and pasta and bread. Those substitutions for something like a carnivore diet, I can see work really well. And I mean, the results are out there, right? You go to some of these Facebook groups, just Google it out there. A lot of people have transformed their life, their health, and their physique by using the carnivore diet. But I don't think it's for everyone. So it really depends on who you are, what your lifestyle is like. So to conclude, after trying the carnivore diet, I will say I was skeptical in the beginning, but it was better than I thought. Would I consider doing this again in the future? Not exactly. I would do it in a modified variation. So there were a lot of elements that I really liked. I liked the fact that the protein always stayed high. It kept me really full. I didn't really have any cravings. I love the fact that my sweets were low, my carbs were low, and it just left me feeling really good. And I feel like a lot of people can benefit. Now, what I would do instead is I would add veggies and fruit. So that would be my modifications. I would also make sure I get enough fiber. So those would be the things that I think, from at least a health or concern level, just eliminating those things, not getting enough fiber, I would have maybe a little bit of an issue with. Finally, I do think depending on the person, there may be health concerns that you need to be able to be aware of beforehand. So if you're considering starting a diet like the carnivore diet, be sure to talk to your physician first, because it's probably not one of those things that's for absolutely everyone. So like all nutrition protocols, there's some good, there's some bad, but ultimately it comes down to your personal preference. Does it fit into your lifestyle? Because for some people, they'll love it. For others, they'll hate it. Hope you enjoyed this video, guys. If you do like videos like this, do us a favor, like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.